Hey there, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Leia and I am a lifestyle content creator. Aside from that, I'm also a full-time videographer, photographer. I'm a wife, I'm a mama. Today's video is one that's long overdue, but I feel like it's gonna be really good. We're gonna talk about traveling with an infant and toddler. As a full-time creative entrepreneur and business owner, traveling is literally a requirement, and we also live in 2 states, so it's impossible to not travel. We also just love to travel and experience new things with each other and with our families. It's where we find our inspiration, and it just fuels us. With my first flight being when I was 19 years old to South Africa, and then all the way up until 25, having been on about 200 flights, I definitely was like, yeah, I got this under control. Like, this is it. I enjoyed flying. And then boom, we had a kid, and everything I thought I knew about flying, everything I associated with flying, the feelings were basically shaken up, and I found myself having some type of anxiety when it came to flying. It just became very overwhelming, and it was very daunting, and it was a task that I did not look forward to doing. Fast forward to now, I kind of feel like we've mastered somewhat the art of flying with an infant and toddler, and it's a breeze. Because I have moved from a space of being overwhelmed and anxious to now a place where it's actually enjoyable for us, and not just me, my little one as well. I feel like I have some things that I can share with you that may help you on your journey if you're flying with your infant and toddler now and you're looking for some tips, or if you're planning to in the future and you're looking for some tips. Hopefully something that I say today will be useful to you. In this video, I will be detailing some practical information and tips from my experience of flying with a toddler and infant that hopefully will make flying for you less stressful and even enjoyable. So pull out your notebook, pull out your notes app, take some notes, and let's just dive right into it. Now, flying with a toddler and infant can be daunting for many reasons. Maybe it's because you don't know any of your friends who have kids that travel and fly, and you figure, well, maybe they're not doing it for a good reason, so maybe I should do it. Or maybe you just don't really have the right tools or knowledge that can help you be adequately prepared. I had so many misconceptions about flying, and that really played a part into my anxiousness and anxiety around it. When things just seem very unattainable and just overwhelming, I tend to shy away from them and just say forget it as a whole. But with life comes decisions, and part of our decision as a family incorporated flying, and I had to figure it out. It's been cool to kind of figure out what works, what doesn't work, and even like overcome it. There are 2 important things that I must mention before we even go any further. Every child is different, so some of the things that I say may work for you and they may not work for you. My job is just to be that extra push and that extra source of knowledge for you to even take that leap to even attempt. Second, all of the information and guidelines can be found either on TSA website, or if you fly Delta like me, you can find them on the Delta website. But if not, check your airline and see what guidelines and amenities and information they have for people flying with infants and toddlers. Let's talk about preparing for the flight. This is going to be the things that you do leading up to the flight that are really going to be crucial in your experience. One of the most important things when it comes to flying with infants and toddlers is timing. You want to pick a flight that's going to be right around the time where they're going to be asleep. I think that's really prime for making the flight enjoyable, because if they're asleep, easy peasy, right? It's also important to know that children under 2 years old literally fly free. My son had been on maybe 60 flights before he even turned 2 that were all free. Although the ticket is free, because your child is under 2 years old, they will still be considered an infant in arms, which means they will literally be an infant in arms. They cannot have their own seat. Now, you do have the option to purchase a separate seat, but even in that case, your child has to have an FAA approved car seat. One of the misconceptions that I had prior to flying with an infant and toddler was that they needed identification. If your child is under 13 years old, they are not required to have an ID. TSA used to be really scary for me. I mean, you got all these machines, people yelling at you, you got to take your shoes off. It was just a lot. So imagine adding a baby to the mix, okay? It was a lot. One thing that became very useful in my TSA experience was making sure that I had TSA pre-check. It allows for quicker time getting to your gate, and it also eliminated the amount of things that I had to take off, which made it a lot easier, especially when you have a baby strapped to you. It's important to know that TSA staff is there to help you, so take your time because you may regret it later. I remember our first flight with Enzo, We got through the gate and like we were rushing and hustling and bustling, and we are sitting at our gate and we hear over the intercom, if you have left a black diaper bag at TSA checkpoint, please return and get it. And I thankfully heard the announcement, but I can only imagine if I didn't hear them announce that and we had gotten on our flight without my baby's milk, without our diapers, without all these things that were super essential, which could have been avoided if we would have taken our time. So please take your time. You're not in a rush. It'll be okay. One thing that I've enjoyed in my time being a mom and flying are the amenities that are available in the airports. Recently, I've seen lots of nursing rooms pop up and family rooms, but also we've decided to take advantage of the Delta Sky Lounge as a family. This is a place where we can go and kind of regroup. If once we've passed the TSA checkpoint, we can go straight to the Delta Lounge and regroup. I can eat, dad can eat, baby can chill, we can all be chill and kind of like regroup before we get on our flight. So if you can, definitely take advantage of those, especially if your flight gets delayed or any of those things. This is a great opportunity for you to have a place where you can feel comfy and have food. So yeah, if you can take advantage of any of the lounge accesses, it'll be worth it, I promise. One thing that we've implemented now that our son is a toddler and he's a lot more active is we let him run around. We let him play at the airport. It's a good way for him to get his energy out. And I mean, there's not a ton for him to do there. We found that the more he plays before, the more tired he gets on the actual flight, the more calm he gets, and it's great for us all. I can remember like boarding and being very like anxious and rushing, trying not to be in the way of people or trying not to move too slow. And please take your time. I cannot say it enough in this video. Take your time. Nobody's rushing you. You belong there just as much as anybody else. So act like it. As mentioned before, the staff is there to help you. One of the things that most airlines have implemented is pre-boarding. So this usually applies for families with infants or toddlers, and they get to go on before everybody else because they usually need a little bit more time. And so that kind of helps with the anxiousness and the rushing. It allows you to go on before everybody else. You can get settled in, make sure your area is all settled and that you have what you need right readily available to you. You ever take off from a flight and your ears pop? I know that some people's pop, some people's don't. Mine doesn't really pop as much. Some people's are a little more intense to where they have to chew gum or have different methods for doing that. Well, this applies for infants as well, but they cannot voice it as much as we can as adults. So to be safe and to make sure that your child is as comfortable as possible, I would encourage feeding at that time of takeoff and also landing. You can feed them their milk or maybe juice or whatever they have. From our experience personally, our son has never had any issues with popping. So thankfully we have never experienced that, but we also took precaution just in case because there was a time where he couldn't voice that even if he was uncomfortable. I will say in the beginning stages when Enzo was 1 and under, it was so easy flying with him. He usually just slept, he usually just ate, he was easily entertained by mom or dada, and it was just so much easier. But now that he's a toddler, it's not as easy. So as we've reached a new level, we've had to kind of amp up our entertainment on flights. So Enzo has tons of educational games on his iPad. He has movies. He has shows that he can watch that we've downloaded prior to even getting to the airport. Another thing that we do is try to make it engaging for him. He loves planes. He loves to see people working, and he loves to see the process, like taking off and landing. And so we make sure that we make it engaging for him. When we go past the captain's pit, he gets to look in there. Like, making it fun is going to be super important for your kid. Most importantly, above all else, during your flight, stay calm and flexible. This is new for your kid. They're adapting, and so it's important to be calm, because if they feel that you're anxious and all those things, they're going to be anxious and they're going to be uncomfortable. So stay calm, but also be flexible for things to change. Maybe you may try something one flight that works great, but on the next flight it's not working so great. Be flexible and willing to try different things and willing to navigate that. Also, please don't be afraid to ask what you need. There were times where I needed water for formula, or I needed water for myself as a breastfeeding mom, or my son needed water or a snack. I definitely took advantage of that because they're there to help you and to serve you. So don't be afraid to ask for what you need. As mentioned before, every child is different and they're also experiencing different levels and stages of development than others at different points. So while some of the things I've mentioned worked for me, it may not work for you. It may work for you in different times, maybe a year from now. But don't be closed off, be open-minded and try. It just doesn't hurt to try. Lastly, be patient with yourself. Traveling with an infant is not easy. So although they're navigating it, you're also navigating it as well. So as you're learning and journeying through this experience, know that you have to have grace for yourself and patience. I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you have any tips about flying or traveling with an infant, please comment them below. Also, if you have any questions, I'd love to be able to answer them or even point you in the right direction to get those answers. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.